The planets have aligned, and once again, the prophecy has come true. That's right, folks. It's time for another episode of the Roundtable Rethink podcast with me, your trusty host, Uncle Paddy, joined every week by twin brother in spare parts bin, Andy, the asshole.
Woo, come on now.
And of course, back in the seat with metronomic regularity, the sage himself, Stevie Tel Avivi.
Evening, gents. Bit like Manchester United, 3 weeks in a row.
Yeah, this week we will be discussing two very important topics. We'll be discussing the agentic browser wars, which sprung up this week, where every browser maker and a whole bunch you don't even know are now infusing their browser products with AI capabilities. And then we'll actually be having the big philosophical discussion of, is the education system preparing our kids for an AI future?
No.
Let's kill
Thank
that
you
one.
for tuning in to episode 27.
TLDR. Too long, didn't read. Go to the end. No. All right. Before we get into that, we'll start as we always start. Boys, how's the week been?
The week has been good. We've been very busy. We had a few problems at work at the weekend. By the way, just while it's on the top of my mind, do you know one of the things that I've realised running this business for the last 18 years? There is no elegant way to provide last-minute emergency cover for bands like that need to like pull out of gigs and stuff like that. It's about as chaotic, it's about as panicky as you can imagine it is. And so we had a particularly rough weekend for that this week. I'm delighted to say that we got all the issues resolved eventually, but it's not the most enjoyable week that I've had.
And of course, the thing driving that was just the crazy wave of disease. And
the weather is changing, the lurgies and the COVIDs and the vomiting bugs are
everybody seems to be
manifesting
sick right now.
as they always do at this time of year.
But it's a great point, back to entrepreneurialism. When the shit hits the fan, the buck stops here. And it's like, it's the business leaders are the ones that come in. I remember many years ago getting chicken pox in my late 30s, early 40s, and literally going into the office at like 6 a.m, so didn't infect everyone, grabbing files, bringing them home. Dear old Jack would come out at night, but that was it. No one else could do the work, so you just did it.
You just have to do it.
Buck stops with you, big man.
So that was that, but I am gearing up again for my 9th foreign holiday on Saturday to the Canary Islands, so it's a tough job, but somebody's got to do it.
So I think we'll get kicked off this week with
Oh,
the...
You never asked Stephen how he was.
Sorry.
Cheeky bastardo.
Stephen.
Fine. It's been a busy week. Lots of good stuff happening. Lots of speaking gigs. We've been enjoying a lot of teaching, lots of marking. There must be a better and quicker way to do this. And a quick shout out to Prof G, Scott Galloway.
Yeah.
Coming to see you tomorrow, big man.
my
Looking
God.
forward to going
So
to Toronto. Thank you to Tracy's cousins and all our family in Canada for having us over. And we're off to see Scott
Prof
Galloway.
G. Nice
So for
one.
those of you who don't know who Professor Galloway is, Professor Scott Galloway, do yourself a favour, get tuned into him. You might not agree with all his views, but he is an extremely smart guy and he's a master communicator.
Yeah.
And I find him to be incredibly engaging. Don't agree with everything he says, by the way, at all. But I'm always interested and fascinated by his point of view, and I always love his delivery. He's a super duper smooth guy.
I've decided I'm basically Scott Galloway in Scottish form. All of the things that he's famous for, I'm just a smaller version of.
Right.
So Michael Levitt, shout out, thank you again, and you can get me up on stage if you need to, if there's an emergency.
So Steving heading to Canada tomorrow. He looks as if Scott Galloway had been put in a microwave and shrank 48%.
The same microwave that Matt Damon
shriveled up. Scott Galloway.
I'm Scott Galloway, but 2 million listeners less and about 100 million less in the bank.
The same microwave that Matt Damon almost perished in Elysium.
Very good. All right, an action-packed week on the personal front. Let's get into the docket. Only 2 stories, so who knows? It might be a short podcast this week. We always say that, then it runs an hour.
Of course, aye.
But let's see where we end up. So let's start with the first issue. This is something that has been on my mind strongly for the last 12 months.
We've all got children, we've got grandchildren.
Yeah.
We're worried about their future.
We see the world changing at an unbelievable speed in front of us. And the big concern is that the education system is still treating AI. AI equals bad. AI is how you cheat on your exams. Don't get caught using AI.
So it's basically all under the umbrella term of, is our education system preparing our kids for the AI future that they're going out into? So we're going to talk a wee bit about current state. We're going to talk a wee bit about what we fundamentally think the issue is. But I actually don't want this to be, a kind of shit talk fest on teachers and stuff like that.
This isn't anything to do with teachers. Teachers can only teach the curriculum that they've been provided.
Any ire, any criticism that's levied here is always at the local authority or the governmental level, not the teachers. The teachers can only teach the curriculum that they've been handed down. But we're going to point out what the current skill set delivers, what the future skill set that the kids need to learn, what parents can do to intervene to make sure that they can be an active participant in parallel to their kids' schooling and helping them imbue this new skill set that the kids need to go ahead and not just survive, but thrive in this kind of post-education, AI-infused world of work that they're going out into. So I think every conversation like this always starts with trying to fundamentally frame the problem. So what is the problem? And the problem, to my mind, is despite some well-meaning reforms along the way, the public education system in this country is designed run about teaching kids how to memorize and recall under time pressure. That's the two foundational skills that you learn at school. You learn how to memorize a bunch of information and then recall it under time pressure in an exam environment. And one of the challenges with that, one of the things that you have to interrogate there is, what is the value of that skill set in a world where AI can recall anything 1 trillion times better than you instantaneously, and it's pretty much zero cost? And if those things are true, what are the new skills that you need to develop to actually go and survive and thrive in this AI world? So I've got some ideas about what those skills are. I've done a bit of thinking on that, done a bit of digging on it, want to give parents a wee bit of a prescription about what they can do. But before we go on to that, I just want
Stephen's busting to get in here.
I just want to kind of hit the pause button on what are the parts of the problem that we've not fleshed out properly. So the school system is a memorization and recall system, but there's also cultural issues inside the schools as well. So what is parts of the problem that we've not framed properly yet?
So I think there's a couple of things that immediately come to my mind. First of all, this problem has been repeated throughout time. We went from abacuses to slide rules, went from slide rules to calculators, from calculators to computers. So schools have always been trying to catch up. You're right, there is a culture issue. And in fact, if anything, we can talk about this a bit more later on, I think AI releases parents to educate their children at home, much more like the American homeschooling system in a way, if you're properly set up for it. So I think there's point number one, it's not a problem of AI, it's a problem of culture in schools more than anything else. Secondly, I think...
Can I just question one point that you've said there? I don't agree with that entirely. And I think the parallel's not a good one because the calculator replacing the slide rule was instantly understandable and discoverable, right? You went 56 times 47 equals. That was the learning curve to the calculator. The learning curve to this is 12, 18, 24-month learning curve. It's a completely new way to think about solving every problem in the world. It's a completely new panoplia of tools that never existed before. So to that extent, I think the learning curve I think the disparity in the analogy is the learning curve here is massive, and it's not one facet like math. It's all facets of society are changing simultaneously, and that's the part we've never had before.
And that's a great point, and I don't disagree with you, but I think we've already said the tool will become easier and easier and easier to use. So even things like prompting disappearing already.
Yeah.
So you're right, but it's just an analogy. It's not an absolute analogy.
With that in mind, Paddy, you've been in at schools recently doing a couple of talks. What are you hearing anecdotally for the staff and the leadership inside of schools in terms of the challenges that they're having rolling this type of stuff out?
The understanding themselves, like even if they were handed the curriculum, a new AI curriculum, there's like a whole learning curve the entire teaching staff would have to go through in order to be able to deliver that curriculum. None of them went to school or university to study that, to learn how to deliver it. So you're asking people to learn subject matter they don't understand and then deliver it to people who also don't understand.
And you know, when I was doing my research for this, one of the interesting facts come up, one of the biggest, most chronic shortages in education just now is computer science teachers.
Yeah.
Remember the computer technician teacher that used to come in and fix the computers when they went?
So at the local level, I don't think there's any lack of understanding of what the issue is. I think behind closed doors, they're all very aware that this is a problem.
Yeah.
None of them know what to do about it. They're all waiting on the larger education system showing up with some guidance. But then you're just moving the problem up the chain, right? The fundamental issue is, even if you could develop all this material and it made sense, you're asking people to deliver it who never went to university for 4 years to learn. Our sister Tracy went to school to learn how to do business studies, right? And how to teach. So she learned business studies. Then she did a year to learn how to teach business studies.
Yeah.
None of these people went to AI school for the last 3 years to learn AI, then did a postgrad on how to teach AI. Therein lies your problem.
I would argue there's no one in most organizations, be it education or business, who is suitably qualified at the top of the tree to fully understand what's happening. So education is filled with people that are either going to be doing it badly with a lack of understanding, it's bad, we can't do it, or worse still, are going to be going like lambs to the slaughter to outside consultants who are going to sell them way overpriced, super expensive solutions, which will probably not be fit for purpose.
Enough of it, Paddy.
Damn, I was looking for that gig.
And by the way, when I looked into it, there has been well-meaning reform in the education system. They brought in Curriculum for Excellence in 2004. There was a Hayward report, and these were all attempts to try and come away from these, S4 to S6, kind of life or death, handful of exams a year that, would just completely distort the trajectory of your career after that to a more kind of holistic.
Curriculum is, nothing has ever moved at this speed before, right?
Exactly.
The curriculum moves at roughly a 7 to 10 year cycle, somewhere in that kind of, ballpark. Well, how does that work in an AI world that's evolving every 90 days? And transforming every 12 months.
Mm-hmm. But and also it's understanding that the current system was essentially designed post-war, the foundations of it, and it was designed to spit out worker bees that were involved in the doing of a task.
Yeah.
So people smart enough to build the products in the factory, do the paperwork and stuff in the office. What is the value of that skill set now in an AI world where this thing will do most things better than most people?
Well, one of the challenges I think we've got is if we build a system just to catch up with where we are today, by catching up, you just lag behind.
Yeah.
If the system is broken, we've talked about this before, you want to accelerate into failure. You want to accelerate into collapse so you can have
bounce
a clean
off the bottom.
Bounce off the bottom. And if we're going to change education, it shouldn't be to bring it up to date. It should be looking at a world-beating, world-class, what the future would look. And AI, surely of all systems, gives you more opportunity to tailor to individual students, to allow people to find subjects and deep dive in a way that probably they couldn't do barring...
I actually think the government and the local authorities are so far behind that they're never actually going to be able to catch up. I don't think they're going to be able to provide an internal solution. I think they're going to have to go and find external solutions.
100%.
I think they're going to have to send these fucking
Short
kids
term at least.
to boot camps or
12 to 24 months.
Yeah.
Or they're going to rely on people like me who are philanthropically going to have made a mission of training 10,000 kids next year how to do AI.
Right, and let's just take that as an example, right? Just S4 to S6. So, because I was thinking along the same line. So we'll go into the skills that they actually need in a second. But in terms of some kind of solution design, I'm thinking, how can you square this circle? Even if it's a Band-Aid, can you run some fucking course? And if you could take 100 kids a day, you could take 500 kids a week. And if you could take 500 kids a week, do you know how many S4s and S6s there are alone students in the Scottish education system?
Nope.
About 100,000 rough numbers. So how the fuck do you scale a solution that gets to that many people in the next 6 to 12 months?
Yeah.
Not easily is the short answer,
That
right?
pause that everybody had was, we don't have a fucking
We don't have a
clue.
fucking clue. Because you need guys like us, but you need to be able to scale that up.
One of the difficulties, to go back to the fundamentals, what's the problems in schools at the moment? There's, funnily enough, we did something at university this week talking about professionalism. The code of conduct, the professional standards of teachers match the same as lawyers, policemen, doctors. They're a fabulous bunch of people. So as you said, it's not teachers that are at fault, but they are also hamstrung by discipline, by the attitude and the life skills of the generations coming through. So there's two problems. Is how do you create the environment, then how do you get the students of today to engage in that environment? So is it you have to educate them all, or do you have to pre-select the ones that are actually AI smart, AI savvy?
I think the first thing
I don't think you can, because you're picking winners and losers at that point. And I think everybody's got to have the opportunity.
Yep.
They'll not be allowed to do this, but the first thing you need to do is level with them that this is fucking existential. Like, it's no optional. Like, you need to level with the kids that you have to be prepared to engage with a subject matter, or you're going to be forced to in the future. But anyway, just getting back to, so if the kind of basic core skills of all being commoditized and intelligence can just be summoned like a genie from a lamp to answer any question that you've got in the future, what are the skills that are actually going to be valuable in the future? So I've got 3 here because I didn't want to overwhelm people with tons and tons and tons of things that they had to go away and think about. So the 3 core ones that I came up with was, number 1, critical thinking.
Yep.
Right, a trust but verify way of thinking. And second was creativity and problem solving, which also kind of runs into solution design as well. And the third one was collaboration with AI tools. So I want to go through them one by one individually and explain exactly what each of them means, because we've got to define terms, right? You need to understand what is critical thinking before you figure out how to learn how to critically think. And by the way, all of those things that I just mentioned there are learnable skills. They're not skills that you just get the sperm lottery and you're born with them or not. Everybody can learn to think critically. It's a learnable skill, as are all of them that I just mentioned there. So what is the simple version of critical thinking? It's the habit of slowing down to check whether something is true, sensible, and useful before you accept it. So in practice, this is what it looks like. Clarify the claim. What exactly is being said? Establish terms. Look for evidence. Who's saying it? What citations are they using? How do you know that they know what they're talking about? Spot gaps or bias. What's missing? What assumptions are being made here? What assumptions are sneaking into the narrative? Consider alternatives. What's the best counter-argument? And finally, conclude carefully. Given the evidence, I think X, and may change my mind if Y was true. So said differently, my daughter's a student lawyer, not a trainee lawyer, Stephen.
Yes, well done.
She's a student lawyer, and she goes to the mooting society. So what I've essentially just described there is the art of debate. Intellectually interrogating an idea, having to think carefully about your position, trying to identify and spot gaps in the other person's position to build narrative and rebuttal run about that. And the point I'm making here is, now that we understand what that is, it's a learnable skill.
So I'm going to come back on that and come back on what Paddy said earlier about why this type of education needs to be selective. What's the biggest problem with generations today? We've lost the ability to debate, to think critically, to listen unemotionally. And that's such a huge cultural
if you don't agree
change.
with my point of view, I'll hold my breath until I black out.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, only a certain number of people, because of upbringing, culture, whatever else, have the ability to be able to critically think. Everyone,
But it's a learnable skill.
It is a learnable skill, but in all of the problems that we're going to have to solve moving forward, and this sounds terribly, it sounds terribly harsh, those that are not able to to learn how to critically think have to be taken out of the process and found other ways. Great manual labor, be a mechanic, be a central heating engineer, do something else which is going to give you a great job. But for the AI future, critical thinking is a skill which if you don't have, you don't pass that basic test, it eliminates
and
you
it
from
needs
that
to
process.
feature more prominently in any future curriculum from a very young age. I know there is some element of debating and stuff. I do remember that anecdotally from school, but it's a tiny, tiny, insignificant part of your overall day in education. It needs to be a bigger part. The second one that I want to cover here is creative. What is creativity and problem solving? Put simply, creativity is making something new or seeing a new angle on something old. Problem solving is figuring out a workable way to fix specific issues under real limitations. Could be time, could be budgets, could be a rule set that you're working within.
Sorry, I'm kind of getting lost to where we are here. So are you saying like these are skills that these are the skills that
These are
need
the
to
skills that
develop
kids need to
after
develop.
they leave the education
No,
system?
these. So the
Or
whole
during?
thing is,
Can the
parents.
education system afford a whole bunch of fucking critical thinkers constantly questioning everything that they're being taught?
Well, there'll be an element of that for
But
sure.
you have to be a critical thinker and you have to be creative to get the value out of AI. And that's why I come back to my point. Not everyone is going to benefit of all the elements of AI. The ones that show that they can be critical thinkers. Creativity is such an undervalued skill set.
Incredible.
I'm just thinking of a bunch of people sitting in the front row of class going, sorry, Mr. Smith, I refuse to learn that your marketing 101 lesson today where we build posters for our service or our business. Nobody's marketed their business using fucking posters for the last 20 years.
100%. But
I'm okay with
That's
that.
what a bunch of critical thinkers might actually say.
And it's definitely going to create issues for the education system, but I'm speaking specifically to parents. These are skills that you need to imbue your children with in parallel to their education. This is stuff that don't fucking wait on the education system doing this. They're not going to do it in time. This is a playbook for you to run whilst the children are going through their traditional education as well. So creativity and problem solving. So 5 quick steps. Define the goal and the constraint. Generate options. Quantity first, polish later. I love that idea. Just start attacking the problem. You can refine the solutions later. Pick a contender based on impact and feasibility. Try it small with a sketch slide or quick mock-up. Then learn, tweak, and take inference from the feedback loop that comes from that.
Very quickly today, I did a panel session and I don't remember back to eSpark, but one of the eSpark creative thinking problem solving exercises we did was a picture of a car park and then saying to people, that's Glasgow Airport car park, you've complete access to it, come up with as many crazy business ideas as you can in the next 10 minutes. And actually it was a fabulous, and actually everyone there, they're all lawyers, and I think they all got something out of it because they were all having to use that creative muscle
Part of their
that
brain.
they don't get to use every day. And that's
100%.
where we still add value to the AI system.
Yeah.
And the final one is collaborating with AI tools. I think that's the final part of that jigsaw.
But that's hard today when you're being told that you're not allowed to use AI tools or they're blocked from the network.
And that's part of the
All
settlement
the
of this.
terror that we're running through all your submitted essays and documentation through plagiarism filters. To get me,
Once
we're
again-
deploying AI into making sure kids don't use AI without fucking realizing the complete irony of that situation.
But please understand, this is about parents. This is about kids taking their future into their own hand. While you're not allowed to use ChatGPT technically in school, you should be familiarising yourself with ChatGPT and automations and workflows and GPTs and fuck knows what else.
And it's a
in
short-
parallel.
Andre Karpathy, so he's the guy. He's considered kind of one of the godfathers of AI, and he kind of he headed up the self-driving team at Tesla for a while. He was there for about 5 years, and he did an interview the other week that blew up the internet, basically pouring cold water onto AI and its trajectory. A lot of it's been largely rejected, and he's definitely what some would consider a bit of a idealist. But he had this absolute zinger this week of a quote, and I've just brought it up on the screen here. So he's basically talking about, he thinks that society has placed this kind of pervasive cultural veneration on intelligence, right? So you'll hear various entertainment and media personalities obsessed with things like IQ. Trump always talking about he's a really smart guy, and this guy's smart, and this guy's got an IQ of that. So he talks about personal agency. So agency is significantly more powerful and significantly more scarce. Are you hiring for agency? Are we educating for agency? Are you acting as if you had 10x agents? So he then asked Grok to come up with an explanation for agency. So agency as a personality trait refers to an individual's capacity to take initiative, to make decisions and exert control over their actions and environment. It's about being proactive rather than reactive. Someone with high agency doesn't just let life happen to them, they shape it. Think of it as a blend of self-efficacy, determination, and a sense of ownership over one's path. So in a world where intelligence is now completely commoditized, available to everything, the things that we used to value, which was intelligence and smarts, might actually go away, and the most powerful character traits and the most powerful things might be the folk that just have the get up and go in the personal agency to go and wield these
in
things.
a world that's constantly trying to take your attention off you onto other things.
Well,
your ability to execute is always going to trump everything else.
Shout out to Josh and shout out to Tom. But basically, there's my two nephews, both before school were pre-reading a year ahead in their maths. They were both going in. They already knew what they were being taught, but they took agency. They actually went off. They enjoyed the subject. We'd sit at night and we'd debate why 1 and 1 didn't always equal 2. But they loved to actually understand the mathematical theory and be able to explain it. And that to me is real agency. They took that initiative. And that's back to what I was saying. We need to find the students, the people that have those abilities and make them into superstars.
That's why I don't think you can just talk to students about AI. There's got to be a hands-on component to it because of how people learn, right? Learning is done through a feedback loop. So you learn something new, you try to apply it, you fuck up, you win, you lose, you get feedback, and then you try again. And that cycle is how you acquire and attain knowledge. If you just get the words blasted at you, but you're not sitting there trying to practically put it into practice, it doesn't land. That's why we've always said AI is a learn by doing skill set. You've got to be hands-on with the tools. So that's another thing that I think is going to be really difficult for education. There's no fucking notebook or there's no worksheet that they can hear the words and then...
But there is ChatGPT, and going back to my example, let's say, for example, critical thinking, one of the things that I was going to demonstrate here today, but it ended up being too detailed and too boring to try and unpack on the show, was I was only describing what all of those things are. The next thing that I did was create me a game that shows my teenage son how to think critically, or create the talk track and the dialogue that shows my in a kind of game or an adversarial debate environment. So the answer to all these AI problems is actually more AI. And you can do that with everything. You can do it with the creativity. Give me examples, gamify it, turn it into something, turn it into a working website. Paddy's got Lovable on the screen just
Stop talking for a second.
Yeah.
I'm going to dictate to my computer here what I want it to do. So this isn't rehearsed. I'm going to try and build this app before the end of the podcast while we finish the rest of the podcast. But I'm going to dictate the prompt because my typing sucks. Create for me an app that will allow my teenage son to think critically. It should work on a mobile phone, be mobile responsive, use React and Tailwind as the tech stack, should be fast and responsive, and easily interactable by a teenager.
So here's my ignorance of the system, and maybe you can answer this for me because I don't have kids at school age anymore. I'm assuming table stakes for most students nowadays is at least a laptop. I mean, So everyone going to school has a laptop. Everyone in school has access. So all you're really talking about is the cost of a license for students to be able to go on to
and sensible rules based around about output. It's like Paddy spoke at that implementation thing we did the other week down in London. It's like create an amnesty. It's like, okay, guys, we know you're all using ChatGPT in your own time, so here's now the rules moving forward. You can use it as a thought partner. You can use it to flesh out ideas. You can use it to summarize things. You cannot use it for final output for exam submissions.
And it's my understanding that Google does provide Gemini access for free to all students.
I think examinations, and again, I'm a little bit involved with this stuff. I think examinations in an AI world actually go back the way to being verbal examinations, where you actually speak and interact with people and you mark them based on that interaction. Because the online stuff, or you take the view of, I don't really care where the output comes from. If the output's right and you get it for me from AI, then it's right. It doesn't matter where you get it from.
And with these skills that we're talking about here, if you learn them and your kids know them, your human advantage at that point has been able to frame the problem, interrogate the output, and creating things that actually matter in the context of the problem that you're trying to solve.
Yeah.
And that's why I've came down that they are the 3 foundational skills that you need to imbue your children with in parallel to their traditional education.
I don't disagree, and I think I also wonder. I think parents do have a big role to play. Do you need to have an education system with AI where
Right,
basically
sorry,
parents,
Stephen, to cut across you. How long did that take, Paddy? 3 minutes?
3 minutes. Here's our Think Sharp critical
So Paddy has now a
app.
Think Sharp app running on his screen. Current streak 3 days, and it's came up with.
So it asks 5 questions every day and then records streaks over a period of time.
Yeah.
Okay, so 4 people need to cross a bridge at night. They have 1 flashlight, and the bridge can only hold 2 people at a time. Each person crosses at a different speed: 1 minute, 2 minutes, 7 minutes, and 10 minutes. When 2 cross together, they go at the slower person's pace. What's the fastest way to get everyone across? And then there's 4 multiple choice questions.
Yeah.
So I can select that, submit my answer. It says, okay, you screwed that up. Think about it for another 17 minutes. Okay, and that's asking me a different question. It'll take me back to that. This is a full-fledged app based on exactly the prompt you heard me articulate, ready to go in 3 minutes. This is like, people don't understand it. This is how quickly.
And if you don't,
software and utilities.
if you feel too intimidated to try and work with one of these vibe coding platforms to turn it into a game or an app, remember, you can do the whole thing inside a ChatGPT like I did. In the simplest terms, what is critical thinking? Now create me a game or a this or a that will help my child develop critical thinking skills over an 8-week period with testing and all sorts of stuff. You can do it all inside your ChatGPT account.
I notice I work with a team, and it's that thought process. It's mindsets and behaviors. And I see work coming out, and I said to a colleague recently, the solution to your problem is ChatGPT. Take this back. Here's a basic prompt. Feel free to adjust the prompt for what you need it. But it's getting people to think, and Paddy showed a perfect example there. It's that critical thinking. Once you start to realize that the solutions are there, then your brain works. What was my output going to be? And then after that, all you're really looking for is a little bit of work to brush up your technical skills. And guess what? If you're not sure how to do it, go into YouTube and there'll be a video to teach you.
100%.
And when you understand these skills, you can be dropped into any situation, any department, any company in any industry and find your feet really quickly, because these are skills that will serve you in every area of your life.
So the fundamental disconnect here, just as we wrap up the whole discussion about education, because we definitely won't fix it on this episode of the podcast, is we're basically preparing students for a world that does not exist by the time they qualify.
Yeah.
Okay, and so AI literacy is now going to be optional for them when they leave the education environment. It's going to be as important as literacy itself. Okay, they have to be AI literate before they read. The cheating narrative is absolutely absurd. So the ability to prompt, to verify output, to construct constraints, these are all higher order skills and thinking that are much more important than learning how to do a task. That's why we should not be positioning this as you're just using this to cheat. By being able to prompt it in a way that it can help them cheat, they're already demonstrating higher order skill sets that are actually much more valuable to them than the thing we want them to focus on. And then if you think about the careers that are impacted by this, nothing really escapes it, right? So they're going to leave and become a software developer. And as we know, that's probably already disproportionately affected by AI tools. So AI is coding now. Everybody in the world accepts that. Every developer in the world is transitioning to that way of working. Lawyers use AI for research, document analysis. Doctors use AI for diagnostic support. Marketing is largely a role that's being consumed by AI for content generation and analysis.
You're goddamn right.
Even the trades are incorporating AI for things like design and planning and reasoning across drawings and stuff like that.
When you think about a future world, what you're really beginning to say is pass and fail no longer becomes the answer. Pass and fail becomes your ability or inability. If you get it wrong, it's because you've prompted wrongly, because you've used the wrong AI tool. That's the error. And that's where the thinking has to change. It's not about not using it. The fail is if you come to me with, we were talking this week about legal cases, hallucination of legal cases. Yeah. That's because you haven't prompted it right or pointed at the right set of data sources.
So if we could wave a magic wand at this whole thing, what schools should be doing and should is going to be very different to what they can do. What's the prescription for this whole thing, right? If you could just wave a wand and have it your way, schools should teach AI literacy and core competency across all subjects. They should show students how to verify AI outputs and spot hallucinations. They should develop assignments that require AI use with human oversight, the human in the loop assignments, and they should teach ethical considerations and bias awareness, right? Teacher training in this whole thing is absolutely critical. So many teachers fear AI because they've not actually been trained in AI. They never went to AI school for the last 3 years. That's a big part of the problem. And what they need is rapid professional career development, and the system's got to come to the aid of them, or it's got to create a budget where they can go and seek that outside of. But let's face it, for anybody who was interested enough, there's unlimited free information on all this stuff on YouTube, right? And teachers should always also be empowered to experiment alongside students, right? Instead of following that very narrow path of the curriculum. So differentiated assessments, move away from assessments that AI can easily complete, right? If I can just upload my essay and go, do this for me, it's probably a sign that the essay is too freaking easy anyhow. Yeah. So we almost have to reevaluate all the assessment criteria surrounding the things we want students to hand in. And we need to focus on process, critical analysis, and creative application. And then finally, you want to emphasize skills that AI can't replace, like emotional intelligence, personal agency, reasoning, complex problem solving, and critical thinking. That would be our prescription for what the solution is to this current problem.
None of
whether that
is,
shows up anytime soon is...
I think the stick and plaster solution is they need to go outside the system,
public sector.
to the public sector, to the private sector.
Private sector and
they need to commission some big training company to pull together stuff that they can send kids on day release, a day a month, or even
bring it into the schools.
A couple of days boot camp or something. They need to create a budget for that, a multi-million-pound budget.
Yeah.
And set kids free. I mean, I think the challenge also is education is often by following the teacher's example. There's absolutely no reason in the modern world where students can't teach the teachers.
Yeah.
This is a world where actually, if you give the students the right skill sets, they can lead. They can actually lead because they're the ones closest to the changes, and most pliable in the way they think.
And right now, the prize is so tantalizing for kids coming out of school right now that are AI literate. They're applying for jobs with companies owned by these middle-aged to older guys and gals that are desperate to get that type of expertise in their business and will probably pay a premium if you show up with some knowledge coming in the door.
Listen, the country's entire competitiveness depends on this.
Yep.
This isn't it, it would be nice if we could get this done. This is fucking the end of all things. And by the way, the states are way more on top of this than we are here. There is AI education in the schools and the universities in America. What we are talking about, I can't speak for what the English school system's doing. I can speak confidently about what the Scottish school system is doing. The country's entire future competitiveness depends on turning out kids who are equipped to go and deal with the world as they find it, not how we would like it to be.
Yep. That's a good note to finish on.
So if that's not the biggest, most urgent priority on the education minister's lap, I don't know what would be higher up the tree than that, or higher up the priority list than that thing.
And listen out for Paddy's plans for 2026. More coming in weeks to come.
Okay. Alrighty. Well, we thought it would be a short podcast. We're 40 minutes in on that one.
Of course we are.
Not time for breakfast yet?
I actually don't think this will take very long.
Nah.
So the big story in AI for the last week has been the rise of agentic browsers. What does that mean? Well, it kind of started back in June or July time when a company called Perplexity launched a browser called Comet. Comet is a Chrome clone, looks exactly like Google Chrome, is based on Chromium, the open source version of Google Chrome. That's a very smart choice, by the way. And all these new browsers that are spawning up are based on Chromium under the hood, because then you get compatibility, access to all the extensions available to Chrome. So that's a very smart thing to do. So what are they doing with Chrome? They're adding agentic and AI capabilities. What the hell does that mean? So what it means is they're basically adding the ability for AI to be a companion, running down a rail on the right-hand side of the browser, and then being able to ask questions of your tabs. Okay, that's one feature it does. It allows you to ask questions of the tabs you've got open, and also allows you to take action across those tabs, albeit not very fast and not very accurately today.
And why is it so important that it can take action across your tabs?
Because it allows you to basically commission work asynchronously, and it's action that doesn't need to be supervised. So scenarios are always best, right? Practical examples are always best. If people are at home trying to work out what all this means, imagine your standard Chrome browser with a big bar running down the right-hand side where you can say, hey, go find the latest Ant Middleton book and add it to my Amazon shopping cart, and then check out selected next day delivery. And then you can move on to something else. And in that tab, it will continue working away in the background. If you actually watch it, which you can, it moves very slowly and the clicks happen very slowly, but it does actually get there on the end. And we all sat and watched it together, didn't we, when we were in London last week? We gave it things like that to do. You could be sitting on a lovely dress, or you could be sitting on a nice handbag or a new pair of trainers, and you could say to the AI, hey, I'm thinking about buying these. Can you go ahead and find me like a coupon code for these? And it'll go and search all your open tabs plus the entire internet and try and find you a better deal for that product. So there's a whole bunch of use cases, but it's imbuing these browsers with agentic capabilities where they can do things for you.
To me, one of the most important things on that point touches on something that we spoke about the other week there, which is the challenge with AI is that the intelligence generally lives in a different place from the data and the services that you're interacting with every week, and you need to find a way of connecting them.
Yeah.
And a lot of that involves exporting. One of the great things about agentic browsers is you spend most of the day logged into half a dozen different paid services that are behind a pass that are protected by password.
So it solves the authentication issue.
It solves the authentication issue. You're already logged into your Google Mail. You're already logged into your Office 365. You're already logged into your calendar. You're already logged into your LinkedIn account. You're already logged into your Facebook account. And the intelligence can happen in those services where you need it the most.
So one of the, just think of that in a bigger picture, and when the system eventually matures, does it drive the cost of everything to the lowest possible margin? Because when you've got browsers looking in the background constantly, does it mean that all you're ever going to get, or you can always get the cheapest deal?
There will always be folk like you who are focused on that.
But it's actually
and there'll always be people like me who value convenience.
Yeah.
And so I've always been a convenience shopper. For me, it's like, if I can get it this afternoon, I'll pay an extra £3 for it rather than wait till tomorrow, right?
But listen,
if you're that minded, then you've already been doing that anyhow, right? You're already going. It's just making that task any easier. So I don't know if it gravitates anybody who wasn't minded like that to that way of thinking. But if you're already wired to think like that, for sure, you'll be able to execute on that strategy much easier.
Plus, shopping is one of the minor use cases of it. One of the ones that gets used most frequently is just like living inside your productivity suite. So tab completions in your email account, summarizing emails.
So just imagine some of the workflows you could do if you had both your email open in a tab and your calendar. On a new tab, you could say, hey, check my mention your tabs in, by the way. That's how you bring them into the chat. So you go, hey, check my calendar and email. See if I'm free on the 29th at 10. If I am, send Andy an email. Send Andy a calendar invite, letting him know that we're going to the Ivy for lunch at 12.
Yes,
Boom.
please.
Okay? And then it will disappear, and it will use the tabs that are open and the logged in state that you've already established to go and execute on all that
With
stuff.
the logged in state being the most important part of it.
Now, I know what you're thinking, but surely I could just go to that tab. Yeah, you could. You absolutely could. So the big argument with agentic browsers right now is the true value really to be captured there, or are they a gimmick? Are they a party trick? but actually they don't actually provide that much more utility than just going and doing that thing.
But the idea is while your agentic browser was creating that event and emailing Paddy to go to the Ivy, you'd be off doing something more important or more higher value.
We talked about this earlier, but surely the whole thing now is that most of us live probably in our browsers more than anywhere else.
Yeah.
So is this going to be the death of Google, or is Google simply going to come along and build this into Chrome and Comet and what was the other one that was it was Atlas was just released as well? Are they just going to disappear inside?
So the short answer is Google's definitely going to build it into Chrome, right? So there's no way Google's going to sit on the sidelines and watch every other foundational model maker build an agentic browser. Actually, Claude have a slightly different approach. They actually have a browser extension that you download into your browser. Anyway, Axe is kind of fundamentally the same thing, but I think you're making a really good point, which is a lot of searches are conducted by opening up a new tab and typing into the tab, not even the Google taskbar, just typing into the tab, cheap socks, size 8.
Right, so let's see if it can execute on this. So I've got my email open in a tab and I said, hey, send Andy Donnelly an email inviting him to the Cyber Cave. The Cyber Cave is where we host the...
Rowdy, what do you think?
The Cyber Cave is our little studio here in the garden where we host the podcast. So go send him an email. We can see that it's working. It's now using the email. It's successfully identified Andy as the contact. Yeah, and it's written the email. Cyber Cave invite tonight at 11 p.m. is the subject line. Hi, Andy. Just wanted to invite you to the Cyber Cave at 11 p.m. this evening. Hope you can make it. Let me know. Okay.
Lots of love, Harvey Weinstein.
Totally random, non-prepared example there, and it actually did execute on that perfectly well.
But the point Stephen's making is, with Google being the dominant player in search, if everybody and their granny's creating an agentic browser, ChatGPT Atlas have got 800, so ChatGPT's got 800 million users, how many of them are going to download Atlas and start conducting search queries on the agentic browser?
The answer is, I don't think that many.
Really?
I think when Google adds the same capability to Chrome, this debate dies. And these things will have an audience, but there'll be power users and super fans of the product, of the platform, rather than mainstream.
I think Google can only lose because it's starting from such a ridiculously dominant position. So say everybody else combined takes 10% market share, they're only taking it for one person.
The one thing that's really interesting in all of this, and I think you talk about, think about Chrome, it is actually open source.
Yeah,
effectively.
it is.
So Google
Chrome is proprietary. The engine underneath it, the Chromium engine, which is the rendering engine and all that stuff, they open sourced that, which was unbelievably smart, by the way.
But it also goes to show that even with open source stuff, as long as you're the best, you get the market share. So they were smart enough to make it open source.
Yeah.
What's interesting is it's easy to disrupt because you can pull all the information, your tabs across. So it's, you can pull it all into, but ultimately, as long as what Google come up with next, which I'm sure they will, is as good as or better, you're just going to stick there because it's a product.
So that's current state of the agentic browsers. What's the promise? What's the future? 24, 36 months down the line. What are we hoping that they'll be able to do in the future?
All the same stuff, except more consistently and way faster.
Way faster. Yeah.
So the problem right now is they're inconsistent. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't at that thing. And then the other problem is they're slow as molasses. So we're looking at a screen here and it's typed the message. It's just fucking waiting to actually send it. Its reasoning step is still reasoning to figure out, I've got the right contact, I've put the subject line in, I've added the message, now how do I send it? And it's figuring that out. And it will come back and send it in a minute, but it's taking forever. Once again, all AI problems are the same. The models, if they never got more intelligent, have the capacity to solve 100x more problems for us if they just ran faster and they just ran for longer. And so what you're seeing right now is just a function of being horribly compute constrained. And that will be true for the next 12 to 18 months. Yeah. Okay? All AI is horribly compute constrained. When that gets solved, all these things with general improvements in the model and then with all the compute bottlenecks, they'll just be fabulously more useful.
Let's say in 12 to 24 months, you're logged into LinkedIn and you say, I want to get another 50 connect requests today. Go and find all the right people, interact with the search tabs. I'm looking for senior events contacts in the hospitality industry, go. And you'll just, to 10 minutes later, you'll have 50 new connect requests accepted because it'll do 300 connect requests to get you that in a minute.
I think you could do that today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think that's a future state.
A bad
I just mean the
analogy.
speed of it. It'll do those connect requests. It'll do 300 connect requests in half an hour, whereas it would take you a full
2
day.
days, yeah.
Maybe not a great analogy, but I remember back to the original days of gaming.
Yeah.
Pong. Little dot went across the screen. Basic game. That was fine. We look at what we can do just now. We can render everything.
Mm-hmm.
That's where this is going. This is Pong today. All of the texture, all the speed, all the usability is just going to add on. We don't even imagine, we don't even think back to Pong. This stuff will just be built in. It'll just be like speaking to your assistant. Go off and book me. Go do this. Go do that. We can see where the future is going. It's just how quickly it gets here.
Yeah.
And what we've realized already is it's going to be faster than we predicted it was going to be.
I think nerds and geeks like me will use agentic browsers. I don't use Chrome anyhow. I use one called Arc because it gets me the entire screen as real estate rather than a browser bar along
One of
the
our
top.
many OCDs.
Well, listen, once you're used to seeing the screen like that, you cannot go back to a tab bar running across the top. It's just no way to go back, right?
Oh, you
If I need
can, but you
tabs,
can't.
They come in on the left-hand rail and I get the full screen and for me, I can't go back.
Yeah.
But I'm a power user, I'm a nerd. There are many millions of me in the world, but there are not hundreds of millions or billions of me in the world. And that's why I think Google will eventually, probably imminently, add the Gemini capability to Chrome to recreate this functionality that has been now demonstrated by ChatGPT with their Atlas browser, Perplexity with their Comet browser, Dia, which is a browser from a company called the Browser Company. Expect to see more of these popping up left and right. Will they all substantially take meaningful market share away from Chrome? No, they won't, because these are power user tool sets and the mainstream are miles away from adopting
They
this.
definitely don't need to disrupt, not to disrupt, but to impact Google's business model, because remember, this isn't just about browser extensions and agentic browsers. This is about search and shopping and commerce and stuff baked into all these other products like ChatGPT.
But here's the question.
The combination of it all will almost certainly affect Google.
On a day-to-day basis, how often do either of you ever meet anyone who impresses you with their knowledge of AI or who is properly using these tools? And I mean anyone.
Almost never.
I am a low-level user compared to the two of you, and I'm amazed that very few people I ever speak to go, oh, I know that.
Yeah.
Most people go, wow. And yet I'm a relatively low-level user.
If you wanted to make the bull case for this, if you said, right, in a year's time, when all these, Perplexity will have its market share, ChatGPT will have its, and then
Claude, whoever,
Claude might make a browser. Let's say it took 5-10% market share away from Chrome. Don't forget that the Omnibox in Chrome, the bar where you type the www address in, is also how you do searches in Chrome, right? So you either type www.google or bbc.co.uk, or you go, give me ingredients for a beef stew recipe.
We actually covered that when you were cracked out on that app earlier. Yeah.
Did we really?
Yeah.
But the other thing is, none of that is bad. Competition is good. Potential disruption of markets is what we want. We want there to be multiple players in the marketplace to drive forward change.
I always come back to the same thing, but it's just not credible or clear to me at this point how all this stuff in aggregate has now already massively impacted Google's search traffic. They've got to be counting the numbers differently, right? I know that when you make a search on Perplexity, it uses Google as a backbone to execute a bunch of searches to get information back, to then recombine it to present you with the results.
They're probably counting all
And
that.
Google might go, that's great, that's our search traffic's not moving, but the monetizable search traffic has to be massively shifting.
Yeah.
That's why they need these businesses like GCP, Google Cloud Platform, which apparently is growing at like 40% a year from a $50 billion baseline.
I'll be growing harder now after AWS is outage the other day.
There's nothing
Google
remarkable
is still
about that,
an
Andy. They all have their
incredible
outages.
Alphabet, still an incredible company. Waymo.
But there's no way that this cannot be impacting the monetizable search traffic. Search traffic in general might be fine because all these things are making searches in the background. To even ChatGPT is making searches in the background to get results.
Well, I've already told you that in our industry, I'm spending 40% less a month on Google than I was 7 or 8 months ago. Not because I'm choosing to, but because it literally can't spend my money. And the guys that manage our ad spend are not able to give me a particularly great answer as to why that is.
Killed off all your competitors by now.
Well,
Don't
trying
get
our
me
best.
wrong, there's never been like, if there was ever an opportunity to reinvent the browser, then all the conditions that exist right now
Would be
need
the
to
right
true.
conditions, yeah.
Because before this, what's been, I mean, web pages have been web pages and they've increased in sophistication and complexity, but they're just web pages, right? And so most people, I think guys like me always need a bit of a reality check. People don't care about tools, they care about capabilities, right?
Yep.
Your mother doesn't give a flying fuck what it takes.
About you.
What it takes to get on to make her £5 online bingo bet or whatever she needs
My
to do.
mother doesn't know how to get on the web
I don't
anymore.
know. I made that up. Maybe Stephen's mother doesn't play online bingo at all. But you get the point. If she had a need to go online and do something, the tool that got her there would be irrelevant. It's only the capability that matters. And actually, that's true for the overwhelming majority of people. They don't care about tools. They just care about convenience and capability. That's why it's always been very difficult to take market share from big incumbents like Chrome, like Google, because muscle memory gets built up. It's a capability they've already learned, and people don't want to have to learn new things.
There are a few times in your life where you see something where you go, wow. The first Sony PSP, I don't remember that.
Oh, yeah.
I picked that one and went, wow.
A games console in your hand.
This is the first time I really have found a game console that actually did what I thought it would do. Middle range iPhones, wow. ChatGPT when it was first launched, wow. Now we're seeing wow, but the wows are definitely going down. Yeah. And for those people that aren't currently engaging fully with these systems, they're going to come into agentic browsers in
agentic. Stop saying agentic.
In 3 or 6 or 12 months' time. And that will be their wow moment, yeah. But the wow moment is not quite here, I think, in these things.
People are always underwhelmed at all that.
I was going to make that point. Like, if somebody had told you 2 years ago what the world would now like and what these capabilities would do, it would have seemed like science fiction. It is amazing how used we get.
There's a podcast.
To this new baseline of unbelievable super intelligence available to us everywhere.
There's a podcast that I listen to by Peter Diamandis. He's actually really, really good. I turned Paddy on to it today. But one of the things that we're talking there is, so this whole thing for years was about the Turing test. If we ever get the Turing test, and oh my God, if we ever surpass the Turing test, we surpassed the Turing test, it was news for a day, and then the entire world did a collective shoulder shrug and went, huh. And I suspect it'll be exactly the same way when we hit AGI. Yeah. The world will go, oh my God, we've hit AGI. And then the news cycle will immediately move on to the next
thing.
For
anyone that isn't aware,
as we gallop past
Alan Turing, who broke the Enigma code, helped us win the war, and who be chemically castrated and
that was his reward.
There you go, Alan. Don't say we're not good to you. All right.
Another fascinating episode.
And how long?
57 minutes and 45 seconds. I don't know. Always seems to come in on the hour.
Yeah.
So, Stephen, to get us up to the hour, you could do 1 minute or 2 minutes of shameless begging for likes and subscribers.
Levels of free Canadian travel begging.
But as everyone out there knows, we do this for the fun of it. We love doing this. I have to say, this is still one of my favourite hours of the week. My favourite of the week. Big shout out to Tracy Levy, my other 23 favourite hours in the day. But the only thing that you can do if you enjoy the show is give it a like, give it a share, tell your friends about it, and of course, tune in a week or two's time when I come. No, tune in every week to catch up with what's going on in tech and AI.
There you go, guys. Episode 27 of the Roundtable Rethink podcast.
In the can. We won't be here next week because there's more travel. Andy's going to be in Tenerife. Stephen will be in Canada.
You'll be in New York.
And I will be in New York.
Wow.
But we will pick it back up week after. All right, there you go, folks. That's it. Another episode in the can. Bye-bye.
Good night.
Take care, everyone.